know, last couple of times, I mean, last week was normal. The week before that, we've had earlier start times, and due to, of course, the NBA playoffs. We'll get into that's a whole other topic of discussion for later. But just want to say something quick before we start, guys. This is episode 50. It's crazy, man. 50 episodes of this thing already. It's been great, and I've I've picked a great team of people to surround myself with. Isaac, for all he does with Plug Talk. Jonko with his insightfulness, sometimes not insightful. Uh, Brandon, who I love, who sometimes I want to murder him, but I still love him. Uh, we've surrounded ourselves with good people here at Plug Talk Sports, and 50 episodes of this thing, and it couldn't have been done but the hard work of all of them, and for believing in the vision, and of course for everyone's support who keeps on watching, keeps on reading the articles on the website, and staying tuned to the social media platforms. So just thank you to everybody. I appreciate all of it, and for believing in my vision from the beginning of creating this thing and putting it together. So thank you guys. Here we are, Monday, episode 50, like I said. Tensions are rising high as usual. Isaac is somewhere set over there. He's with Jason Jackson over at the studio. They didn't tell him that the game was in Boston, but that's okay. We're gonna get into plugs of the week. Let's go with shameless plug. Isaac, what's the worst thing you saw in the past week?
The worst thing, I would say, we were just talking about it before the show started. The Florida Panthers, they've completely collapsed. And maybe next episode, we'll get more into it, and hopefully the season is not over for the Florida Panthers by next episode, but things are not looking good. The Lightning are back-to-back champs, and they are who they are. They are who we thought they were. They're the champs, and they're a lot better than us, and they completely steamrolled the Panthers this last game, and to give us no hope for tonight's game. But let's see what happens.
Jonko, worst thing you saw last week?
Man, I would have to agree with the Panthers, but I would have to say, I guess, the Yankees and the White Sox series. Kind of an ugly, exchange between both teams. Yankees lost twice in a row yesterday with the weather, but I don't know. It's an up and down league,
Brandon?
Yeah, to be honest, stray away from sports, because obviously the Panthers are a huge disappointment right now, and then the series is as stressful as it can get between the Heat and Celtics, going back and forth like a ping pong match. But honestly, I actually got food the other day. I'm not gonna say what it was, but it was a little bit greasy. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? I put the bag down the passenger seat. I lift the bag up after a 2-minute car ride. The seat greased up, staying here. I mean, I tried getting it out. I mean, if you know anything, put in the comments. But I mean, so far no good, and I've been through this entire weekend with a greased up car. I'm gonna have to figure that one out in the AutoZone or whatever.
Hey man, I just hope whoever goes in your car be like, "Hey Brandon, what's that substance on your seat?"
I'm gonna just let them know. So don't worry, it's probably some water, it'll dry out.
Yeah. For me, it's gonna have to be, and let me tell you, this is, and I put it on my Instagram story, as Miami as possible. So people tend to put these spikes or put that scary owl that doesn't do anything to shoo away pigeons, right?
Yeah.
I was going for a walk, and I saw that one of my neighbors got a broomstick and taped it to the column of their house as a substitute to the owl or the spikes or whatever, and thought that was going to work, doing away the pigeons. And the best thing is that there is pigeons sitting on top of the roof, and that was an only in days moment. And I thought it was so bad just to see people become really creative. Let me tell you. It was really bad too. It was scotch tape. I had scotch tape on the broom. It was really bad. You know,
Yeah, but
but
Scotch tape though. I mean, that's as worse as those protesters during the Timberwolves using Elmer's glue to hand stick on the floor. That's real questionable. Scotch tape, man. I would have gone gorilla. So
it was very questionable thinking, Brandon. But again, we are in Miami, and these do happen. So shout out to those people. Very questionable thinking. We'll leave it at that. All right, plug of the week. Best thing you saw, Isaac. We're back to you. Best thing you saw last week.
Again, like I think we spoiled it already, but and we're gonna get into it, I guess. But Bam Adebayo has to be my plug of the week. I changed my entire background of the show for this moment right here, and I called it. While everybody was talking about the role players or maybe Jimmy Butler, guys that had to step up in this series, it was Bam Adebayo. I called it, and he had his game, his 15 for 22 game, and of course, we'll get more into it, but Bam Adebayo had the game that I had been looking for. So that was my plug of the week.
Jaka, plug of the week.
I actually agree with Isaac. I was telling Daniel that Adebayo had to step up, and they thought he was gonna have a big game since Williams was out. He had to step up that game. But I'm gonna say my plug of the week would have to be Inter Miami with two straight shutouts, one against the number one Philadelphia Union, and then yesterday's game against the Red Bulls with a 2-0 win. So I was really impressed.
Drake Callender really balling as a goalkeeper and goal right now. He totally just have that position right now over Nick Marsman.
Now we'll say the Inter Miami did have a little bit sloppy moments with a couple open goals that they should have had. It should have been 6-0, but we're not gonna ignore that. It's plug of the week.
Hey, Drake Callender is what's keeping them at bay.
Yeah.
Brandon, plug of the week.
Well, for plug of the week, it was actually announced, throughout this entire week since last episode, but they put down the first and second defensive teams, all NBA. And I knew that Marcus Smart was going to be there, obviously, for winning Defensive Player of the Year. But Robert Williams getting second team, and I believe it's only his third or fourth year out of Texas Tech. I got to say, I felt like, somebody was looking at Rob, you know what I mean? I tell a lot of people, because prior years is like Jared Sullinger, Daniel Tice, Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
The Celtics never really had a big center where it's like, hey, this guy can be for multiple games as the starter. It was always a switch back in and out. Rob, I felt like his potential was there, and I'm glad to see that he was recognized as second all-team defensive for the NBA.
Yeah. For me, it's just funny, but for me, it's gonna have to be Brandon. Brandon's my plug of the week. When I saw this made my week. When I saw this man on his Instagram story taking a picture with that Celtics fan standing on FTX, that made my week. I was like, this guy found this man and took a picture with him, and the guy looked happy to take the picture. He was like, "Yeah, I got the sign." It was. Let me tell you, Brandon, that was great content. That's my.
I had to get it after seeing what was going on IG in Game 1. I had to see him. And actually, funny enough, the story about that is that I'm walking with a buddy over there because we got tickets to Game 2 at FTX, and it's like I'm seeing oh, I'm gonna get a picture. So so he's on his rant oh, Celtics, da da da. I'm like, hey bud, can I get a picture real quick? And he goes up to me while still talking crap to other people walking into the arena, saying oh, you're 5. And he's like, oh, shut the, this and that. So it's like he was able to say all that and then do this, and then get back to talking crap. So it was an awesome experience. And Celtic fans are everywhere, but that guy, sexiest Celtic fan, you know what I mean? Not saying anything, but he made the sign, so give him credit.
Hey, the original video that was only in day was honestly was the best. He was arguing with the Heat fan from across the street, and you just see him going back and forth. It was great. But my plug of the week is gonna have to be Brandon getting a picture with that guy. That made my week. Let's turn it into some football. People were feeling some way about this, but Sony Michel has been given the number 34 jersey for the Dolphins, and we know that jersey for the Dolphins having obviously Ricky Williams, wear that number. Like, how can the Dolphins give number 34 to this guy? He hasn't done anything with the franchise yet or the organization. How can they just give that number away? I know Isaac and Brandon. I know you guys are Dolphins fans. I know Jonka has fond memories of Sony Michelle with the Patriots and the Super Bowl and all that stuff. Yeah, and Isaac's disappointment, I know. But let's start off with Isaac. You're a Dolphins fan. How do you feel about them giving 34 to Sony Michelle?
At first, I was a little surprised that they would just give away the number like that. But then I thought of like the number 23, like Ronnie Brown has had it. I believe was it Reggie Bush? No, Reggie Bush I think had 25. But anyway, like there's been players who, like, let's say, okay, from Manchester United terms, there's the number 7 shirt that Ronaldo iconically wears. But that number 7 shirt has also been worn by Di Maria, has also been worn by Memphis Depay, has been worn by Beckham, has been worn also by, of course, Eric Cantona. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so for the Dolphins not to have the number retired is a little bit surprising. But this kid, he's from South Florida. He grew up in Orlando, so he's come back home to South Florida. I'm okay with it. After seeing him in practice doing the post game interview, he had the 34 on, and it didn't look really that bad. I don't think he'll be as great as Ricky will, is for the Dolphins, but I have no issue with it. He's a South Florida kid.
Brandon,
well, I mean, before I even go into anything, I mean, Orlando, South Florida, that's a whole 3.5-hour car ride, man.
I have to bring it down now that
we gotta stop somewhere. I know Disney, everyone's Disney, but like we gotta stop it somewhere.
You're talking about the man who's moving to Orlando, so maybe he's a.
My logistics are a little messed up right now. You have to understand.
He's gonna miss Miami. What he's saying is that he's gonna miss Miami, so he's gonna include Orlando in that South Florida to make himself feel more.
You know it's central, but whatever.
So whatever. Either way, it's still a close enough car ride. But specific for Williams though, and Michelle getting that 34 number, I think it's fine. I mean, reality, obviously, a lot of fans for the Dolphins, especially myself. I mean, we all recognize that Williams was a part of a time in the franchise where he elevated the Dolphins, and let alone made a lot of highlight reels for the Finns. But in retrospect, at the same time, I mean, the only number that you could probably say is off limits for the Dolphins, I mean, obviously Dan Marino.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the same thing for Taylor.
Yeah.
But at the running back position, I mean, sure, Williams got a couple of Pro Bowls or whatnot, but at the same time, we have also had a lot of great guys, especially Pro Bowlers, who have come in and out of the running back room. I mean, for one of them recently, Jay Ajayi had a lot of people on a grip. And I don't even remember what number he was, but I think it was also like something like 23 or something like that. I'm not too positive. But in reality, Michelle, if you're listening to this, just prove yourself for the number, because Williams is going to be looking at you. He's going to be rooting for you. But the Dolphin fans, you have him on a 50-50 right now just because you're wearing that number. So hopefully he does well, but I see no issue with it.
I'll go next. I'll chime in. I mean, I don't see a problem with him wearing the number. I mean, I think he's on the double brand, like he's been like a Dan Marino or whatever. So I see no problem with it. But he's gonna have to prove his worth. If he's gonna have that number, and let's say he just doesn't put up numbers, people are gonna be like, how are you wearing number 34 and not doing what you need to do? And I think there's going to be a lot of comparisons. I think when he starts, you're going to be like, you're wearing 34, let's see what you're going to do this season and compare you to Ricky Williams. So, not saying that he's probably going to be thinking about this, because he probably won't. But I think there's going to be some extra pressure on him to compete and to perform just because he's wearing that number. Now, this is an interesting thing. I don't know if that number was given to him or did he pick that number. Is Ricky Williams someone that he idolizes and he looks up to? That'll be interesting to find out. But I personally, I don't see a big deal with him wearing that number. Jonko, any thoughts on Sony Michelle getting that number?
To be honest, not really. I mean, to me, I guess Ricky Williams, he was a great player for the Dolphins, but I don't really see a big deal of him wearing the number. I think it's just number. I don't think he was that big of a player where it's like a shocking thing that he's actually worn. Like, if 23 on the Bulls, no one else has worn 23 on the Bulls. So it's just like, okay, maybe a player of that caliber, maybe it would be shocking, but to me personally, not really.
So the next subject we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit more on the touchy side. Something that's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be something difficult to talk about, and something all four of us we can't really relate to, the person in this situation. Um, and it's something that it is talked about. And actually, before coming on this show, uh, the person was suspended 1 game due to this issue, and that is Josh Donaldson from the New York Yankees. Um, he's had some beef in the past with Anderson. From the Chicago White Sox. They've had previous games between the Yankees and White Sox, but they've gotten into it, and there's been some trash talk. Uh, like I said, Donaldson suspended 1 game. Uh, the situation was supposedly, and it's not supposedly, it's a fact now, but Donaldson called Anderson, who is a person of color. That's why I said that none of us on here can relate to those situations. Uh, he called Anderson Jackie Robinson. And Anderson took that to offense, and benches were cleared, bullpens came out, and it was a whole fight. Yankees didn't really have much to say about it. Neither did Donaldson. The whole situation during the whole fight, he was calm, and usually Donaldson's someone who is a hothead, um, and he was calm. It was more from the Chicago White Sox that were very upset. Tony La Russa, the manager of the White Sox, who was barking as well, as saying that it was extremely racist. I believe it was Anderson's wife or girlfriend or something like that came out and said it was extremely racist. And then the league obviously handed Donaldson off with the 1 game suspension. Now here's the thing: before I let you guys go into it and give you your take, Anderson has come out previously and has called himself Jackie Robinson. Uh, so that's the thing. So we'll start. I'll start with Brandon. What's your take on this situation?
Well, as everyone knows on this panel, my kind of stance on some sort of excessive behavior, either that be, racist comments, sexual behavior, unconsent, anything like that. I don't think it should be at all a part of any sort of league, sport, or anything, and it should definitely not be tolerated. But the whole, especially the whole Jackie Robinson thing. What kind of insult is that? Who goes out and compares? I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to grab my mind around it. I was actually watching the game on ESPN Plus at work, and I just thought to myself, like, what is going on right now? I find it kind of like childish that we even, call each other that, or have these players that go into these type of scuffles like that over such, horrible language. So hopefully, the Yankees do something which recommends the players, and of course, makes a whole, show about this, because it needs to be, televised exactly what's going on some of these scuffles and what words are being disputed between one another. But that White Sox and Yankees game, obviously there are, as you said before, tension between the two players, and they know each other probably very well, playing against each other multiple times throughout their careers. So in reality, he probably said that to try to dig into the other guy. So honestly, I really dislike the entire situation. I don't think that any of that behavior should be tolerated at all. Nevertheless, how weird of a comment that was, nevertheless, should not be tolerated.
I'll give my take next. Again, I can't put myself in the situation because none of us on here are a person of color or dealt with any sort of that thing. But my first thing that came to my mind when I saw the story, be released, I was like, wouldn't a person of color be proud to be called Jackie Robinson? That is one of the greats of the game, and a person of color. If I was a person of color and someone called me Jackie Robinson, I'd be like, instead of feeling insulted, I'd be like, damn, thank you. Like, you just compared me, to one of the greatest players, of my color of all time, and transcended baseball. So that was my first, thinking. But we don't know the context that it was used on the field. Also, it doesn't help his case that he has called himself Jackie Robinson in the past, but obviously he was offended by it. But that was my thinking. If I was called Jackie Robinson and I was a person of color, I would be humbled to be put in the same sentence as one of the greatest players of all time that changed the game. Jonko, what do you have to say about it?
For Donaldson's, I agree with the suspension. Not because I'm just a Yankees fan, but the thing is, I think the MLB should. I like the suspension because I like that they're trying to avoid any confrontation between players or any racial comments. They're just trying to make the game as clean as possible, even between these two heated teams recently. But what Daniel was saying, that he did call himself Jackie Robinson beforehand, and if the league did acknowledge that before they made the decision to suspend him, then I don't. It's kind of sus because it's like, then whose side are you on though? Because if you're calling it a racist comment, we get the person that is being insulted is the one that agrees to not being racist. Then I'm just confused on what the suspension is for.
Yeah.
So, listen, I think it was just should have been something that Johnson should have never said. Just keep it to yourself. Yes, we get it. The Yankees were losing. The White Sox have a good pitching staff and have really good pitchers too. They were on a losing streak a little bit. So it's just like, I guess tensions were hot. They things should have never been said. Ignore it. It should have just gone on with the wind.
I personally feel like I've seen a lot worse that is more, classified as more as racism in the MLB. I think it was believed that the LA Dodgers taking on the Houston Astros in the World Series. Joe Kelly was on the mound for the Dodgers, and Correa, who has he's Hispanic, but he has some sort of Asian descent or background in his family. He was at bat, and Joe Kelly, I believe, struck him out or something and went like this. And for me, I think that's way worse than this situation. And Kelly didn't get suspended or anything. But the next game, or the next time Kelly faced Correa, he apologized from the pitcher's mound. But for me, for Isaac goes, I think that's way worse of a situation, more classified as far as racism than what we're dealing here in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of how I feel about it, and I think anytime we've touched on this topic, I've probably felt differently. But after watching Donaldson's post game interview, where asking questions about it, he did mention that. He did mention that Anderson had mentioned in an interview that he felt like he was going to be the next Jackie Robinson. And so Donaldson, I guess chirping back. I mean, both teams were chirping back throughout the game, right? Saying different things. So it's like you said, Danny, we don't know exactly what was said, in between.
Yeah.
But if Jackie was what triggered Anderson, I don't think it's good enough. But you don't know. These guys apparently do have history. I think it was Donaldson who played with the Braves, or Anderson that played with the Braves at one point. But these two guys, they definitely have had history, in-game action where they're both chirping back and forth, and there's probably some bad blood. Now, as far as the MLB suspending Donaldson, is very reactionary, and I'm not surprised. It's kind of almost the suspension that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Was it Trevor Bauman? Bauman? Yeah, like some kind of suspension that's super reactionary. We don't want to look bad. We want to really nip this in the bud as quick as possible and show everybody that we took action. I think that's what the suspension is about. Of course, of course, you don't want to see this continue to happen, where you have benches clearing because of, you know, dialogue or commentary that could be racist or derogatory, right? So it's really it's a tough situation. I have to side with Donaldson only because I feel like the word Jackie, like it's not good enough. You know, I think Anderson at that point maybe he was struggling throughout the game or whatnot, and his emotions kind of got out of whack. But I mean, that's how I feel about it. If we're really throwing people out of the game because they're being called, you know, Jackie Robinson, I don't know where we are in baseball. That's just my opinion.
I think the take was what it was. I guess Anderson called himself Jackie Robinson because I guess he thinks he's a good player or on the same level as him, and then Donaldson called him said it like I guess like in a sarcastic like smirk kind of
Yeah,
way
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
oh really Jackie Robinson like if like you're not on that level. I guess he took it as disrespect. Like you're a nobody player. You're not as good as me. And then maybe that's why he took it to that offense.
Uh, Touching on what Isaac was saying is like continuing like the benches clear and all this stuff happening. What's quite interesting, and I'm not saying MLB will adapt this or do anything like this, but having worked with CONCACAF last year in their CONCACAF Gold Cup, there is a protocol that they have. It's a three-step protocol. If the referee hears any sort of racist remarks from players or even the fans, the first protocol is they will stop the match and they will wait. Uh, I believe it's 3 minutes until everything is calmed down. If it continues and they continue hearing it, it goes into protocol two, which means that the players will go to the locker room and they will wait there. And if they continue to hear this stuff, protocol step three is the game will be suspended and canceled. So they have CONCACAF has like that three-step protocol to deal with racist remarks and chants and stuff like that from fans. So I think that's pretty interesting because in terms like yeah, the fans or players are saying racist stuff, but then it bites you in the butt because like okay, you guys gonna say that stuff, we're just gonna cancel the game or we're just gonna stop the game. So that's gonna piss people off even more and be like, hey, shut up, don't say that. We paid tickets to be here. I don't want to see the game get canceled. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic on how that works, but definitely yeah. And the funny part is that when this fight broke out between the Yankees and White Sox, uh, it wasn't between Anderson and Donaldson. It was between Donaldson and the catcher. And then Anderson
Right.
came charging in to home plate, and then that's when everything started. So it wasn't really like Donaldson and Anderson were really beefing at each other in the moment. So that's what makes it just makes it interesting. And I agree with Isaac. Like if we're gonna start throwing people out, the next thing you know, it's gonna be like, oh, someone got suspended for calling me Hank Aaron, and yeah, it's
uh, on the article, like for ESPN talking about like this whole situation, it had said that Grandal, right,
yeah.
the catcher, had called Donaldson the Spanish word for pest. So you already know the word he said. Just saying.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that's the whole situation. It was interesting to hear you guys take. So I was very excited to talk about that, see where you guys' minds were on that. But moving to the third topic of the night, something that it's too good to be true. It causes nightmares. Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, this is, and I texted Jonka the other night. I said, it's too good to be true. I don't buy into it. I'm stopping to buy into it. Every season, the Panthers, everyone gets all hyped, oh, the Panthers. And then every year, man, it's these people from, I guess you can consider them Central Florida, up the road in Tampa. Every year, we just run into them, and we just lose. And, last year was the same thing. This year it looks like to be the case. And then Tampa just goes on and like they're quiet. Like people talk about them during the season, uh, and then they get into the playoffs, and then they end up winning the Stanley Cup. I think I believe Jonathan told me the stat that they win this year will be three or
Mm-hmm.
two, three in a row by the
3 in
Tampa.
a row.
Uh, but I'm so disappointed, man, and especially the issues with the Panthers on power plays. Uh, it's been very frustrating to see this unfold. So I'm gonna go with Brandon first because I know you have specific feelings on this as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, for those that don't know, I was with the ticket office there for a while since 2019, and even before then, I was really into the Panthers. But being in the building, though, I mean, for those Panthers fans who has been there for the David Booth years, the Thornton years, the Wongo years, I mean, in reality, everyone knows this is probably, and I hate to say this to knock off the Panthers, went to the Eastern Conference Finals and made it through the Stanley Cup, who ended up losing against the Avalanche in the 90s. But this is probably the best Panthers team I've seen on ice. Phenomenal team, won the President's Cup, best record in the NHL. I mean, Sasha, Alexander Barkov, one of the best young 25-year-old there, going back and forth as a forward. Jonathan Huberdeau, or as, those here probably say, Hooby Dooby Dooby Do, or whatever you want to call it. Franchise player, bro, franchise records. Bobrovsky actually played a goal like his contract was on stake here. You know what I mean? The guy was paid on a huge contract. I don't remember the details, but for multiple years with the Panthers. And in this series against Tampa Bay Lightning, it's like, I mean, what is going on? Game two, the last second goal from the Lightning that sends them to give them a 0-2 at home for the Panthers. Basically, Lightning going to Tampa, leading 2-0. And then the response from game three, especially from Bob, was weak. Very weak. I believe they lose that one by a blowing margin of 5-1. And I mean, they're currently playing right now. And honestly, I have the best to look at the score because it tears me apart. You know what I mean? Because this is a Panthers team from Coach Q, with the whole, Blackhawks investigation that he gets fired. And now we have this new coach. We have no idea what's going to happen with this new coach that was in the assistant. He comes into the season, plays phenomenal for the entire year for the Panthers, who have probably one of the best home records, and they don't even get two games at home against the rivals. So not only was it was a head scratcher to even go to 6 games against the Capitals, who had about 13 players who won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, but at the same time, it's more of a head scratcher to not even win a game at home, let alone the idea of getting swept by that team in Tampa. So in reality, if you're a Cats fan listening to this, don't be ashamed of this season. This is probably the best regular season we've had in a long time. And again, this is a young team. We'll be back. We'll be back. But it hurts a lot.
I agree with you. I mean, it's a young team. Definitely be back. I look at this season as something to continue to build upon. Um, but I still would have liked to at least get one game, just one game, against the Lightning. If you had the best record in the league and stuff like that, um, you have to find, and that's the thing about good teams. They find a way to win, whether it's at home or on the road facing adversity. They find a way to win when all the odds are stacked against them, and it's extremely disappointing. That they're on the verge of elimination and the season ending. And once again, for the Tampa Bay Lightning, for the rivals, which makes it just a bitter feeling for Panthers fans. But um, set aside that overall, like you said, it's a young team. There's a lot of positive to build upon there, and you can only just look forward and build upon to next season. Look forward to next season. It's really, as a Panthers fan, all that you can say. If you're just gonna sit here and then dissect what went wrong in this series, you're just gonna be wasting a lot of time.
Hey, but I have to say though, at the same time, I'm telling you, if they switch for a goal for Spencer Knight, the series ain't over. Series not over yet. So I mean, maybe All Star Duclair shows up in this series. Maybe we get something from Spencer Knight. I'm not even positive because I didn't look at the starting for Panthers, unfortunately, for Game 4 because I'm just kind of in that mindset for the NBA. But I'm telling you right now, series ain't over. But in reality, I mean, GM did a great job this year. Panthers did a great job this year. It's just the playoff experience is really what made this team at the last minutes.
Yeah. I don't know, Isaac and Naka, who wants to chime in first?
I mean, just real quick, because I know I know Jonka's got something for the Panthers. I know you're cooking up something, but like, just it sucks. It really just sucks because this team, we've seen them almost at their highest, and it's like they peaked way too early. They got the President's Trophy, something that we haven't seen this Panther club do. I don't think before, or maybe in a long time. But I do know that the last team to get swept, even though they won the President's Trophy, was actually the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is super ironic. But now the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're obviously not that team. They're back-to-back champs. I mean, this is who they are. They're almost like the Super Bowl winning Patriots. Or like the fourth quarter, you make a mistake, they're gonna eat you alive, and that's what Tampa Bay has done in almost every single game. And it was evident last night that last game, this team, Florida, with so many veterans and all that, like you would think the playoff experience would help the young guns, but it's not showing. You know, Bob is struggling right now at goal. You have Uyghur, who I don't even want to see his face anymore. I don't want to see him, on ice because he's been really bad. Guru, uh, just the guys that really were leading the team in assists and goals, who they're gone now. They're not even like on the ice, but they're not mentally there. They're not mentally tough enough to battle the defending champs. So it's depressing. But you know what? Whatever. I guess if they don't win tonight, we can talk about next season and maybe they have a bright future. But for now, it's very depressing.
Jonka, your thoughts on the Panthers series and the season?
Listen, right now there's like 5 minutes left in the first period, and the score is 0-0. There's still hope. Yeah, you see, I like that, Brian. Cross your fingers. Okay, I've watched every single game till now, and the one thing that I've been watching, what the Panthers are doing wrong, is terrible defense, and they're missing so many wide open goals
Yep.
that it is not even funny. I can't even laugh at it anymore. I thought it was just a joke, like in the first game. Like, oh, okay, maybe it's just nerves or something. But oh no, it's like they're addicted to it. No. Like, I'm serious. It's like a 3v1. It's three against the goalie, and they somehow fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Excuse
power
my
play.
language, pero de verdad, es una feo.
And
I don't know what the coach is doing. They need to sub somebody up, bring somebody new in, give them a hot dog, some popcorn, a beer. I don't know what they need for motivation. But it just seems like they don't want to play. Like they have no energy whatsoever. Like they have just given up every single game, losing by like 4 goals. At some point, you have to like just like look at yourself and say, okay, you know what? Let's take a game, bro. Like they better win today, bro, because or else I'm not spending a ticket for the rest of my life.
hey, I mean,
Rest of your life.
I mean, Andre Vasilevsky for Tampa is good, but at the same time, I mean, you are right. The Panthers, they have every chance in the book that you can give them, and they just haven't been able to capitalize. So.
Yeah, well, when you live next to FIU and the stadium's in Sawgrass, you have to take your chances.
Hey, don't worry. I mean, my family house in Hollywood, so Sunrise isn't that much of a drive.
No, que suerte.
Yeah, must be nice, Brandon. You got you got over there in Sunrise, and you got Dry Pink Stadium all near you. So it must be
Hey,
nice.
I mean, 2 Broward franchises right there in my backyard. Not even that. The same way that the Miami Heat have DJ Khaled, the Florida Panthers, they got Kodak Black, another Broward guy. So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Beckham would be too happy for you to be calling it a Brown franchise.
that might be true, but I mean, for now.
All right, guys, we've had enough of nice, friendly tension. It's now time to put the gloves on. On the box, I already know it's 3-1, but we're talking about Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals: Miami Heat, Boston Celtics, 8:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. Miami Heat have a 2-1 serious lead. It'll be very difficult for the Heat. I already know it'll be very difficult for the Heat to come in and get 2 games in TD Garden. The mission was to get 1, as Brandon likes to say in quotations, take 1 at FTX. We took 1 at TD Garden, so I'll be happy with that they took 1 at TD Garden. just minutes ago, it was confirmed that Robert Williams will be playing tonight for the Celtics. I know Brandon just it was like, yes, thank God. But guys, there's been, and first of all, let me just address the elephant in the room. And I think it's ESPN and the Celtics fans who have been talking all serious long of, you mother, why won the game? But we've won about 12 quarters against you guys.
Oh,
This is a game at the end, as Eric Spoelstra said this morning. At the end of the day, when the clock gets 0-0, if you've won the game, you've won the game. It doesn't matter if you've won one quarter or two quarters in the game. It's at the end of the night. What that scoreboard says at the end, that's what it is. Uh, Bam Adebayo really stepped up. I think that the Heat deserve, which they haven't gotten, but they deserve credit for this win. They were without Jimmy Butler for the entire second half. It did get scary there for a moment where the Celtics came within one, and then yeah, Brandon's still feeling it. And then Kyle Lowry drew up that plan to give the ball to Max Strus, who hit that three. And obviously, Pam Adebayo hit a ridiculous shot at the shot clock buzzer. And that really gave the Heat just a comfortable padding to hold the game off and get the victory. But in my opinion, I think tonight is going to be very difficult for the Heat. And I think and it's a big if they can come away with a victory tonight, I think I'd be very surprised and shocked if they leave Boston with a 3-1 lead. So we'll start. We're not going to give the Celtics fan any slack here. We're not going to start off first. Uh, we'll start with Isaac, and I just want to mention to you guys and the viewers that Brandon did say Celtics in five.
well, after game one, I said that, and it should have been. It should have been, but
So Isaac, go ahead first. Give me your thoughts. Wait, you don't deserve this banner. I'll take it off for you.
Well, okay, so I'll say, the obvious, right? Miami Heat played great defense. They stifled the Celtics comeback late in the game. Bam Adebayo hit his shots. But I'm looking at the stats here, and you're looking at field goal percentage. The Miami Heat shot for 46.7 total field goal percentage. This game, Boston shot 48%. Then when you look at the 3-point line percentage, Boston at 37 and Miami at 33. So what does this tell you, right? Like both teams at some point struggled with their shots in this game. So it wasn't the shooting. It was the 25, 24 plus turnovers that the Celtics had and the 33 points that Miami scored off those turnovers. So what does that say? That the team that really went all out defensively won that game. But what have we been talking about? These two teams, they're both going to have great defenses. So I think tonight really it comes down to buckets. I don't think the Celtics are going to have that kind of shooting performance. Hopefully they can get Jason Tatum off the floor, because he was like rolling around all over the floor last game, including Marcus Smart. So hopefully those two guys can stay intact. And if they do, they have to provide a spark. If the Celtics don't shoot the lights out tonight, they're not going to win this game. So the same as for the Heat, they have to bring that same defensive intensity. Because I don't expect Jimmy Butler, if he's playing and he's healthy enough to play, I'm not going to expect him to go all out. Those trainers, especially Eric Spoelstra, is going to be on his ass, restricting the minutes. Probably the same with Kyle Lowry. Maybe the same thing with, maybe they even sit Tyler Hero to have.
Hero is not available for tonight.
Well, there you go. So then it's got to be a Gabe Vincent, Max Strus combo. It's got to be Bam again. So it's going to be. This is Game 7. That's the way that the Heat really have to attack. If they really want to dominate this series and win it, like I said, in 6 games, they have to win tonight. So for the Celtics, I expect the Celtics to come out very aggressively, and the Heat have to be ready from tip-off, because if they're already out with Jimmy Butler and they're already out with certain players, and now you have to fight a 15, 20-point deficit against the Celtics, I don't know. If it happens, hey, whatever. We, live to fight another day. But for the Celtics, this is Game 7 for them.
Janka?
Okay. So, it says here, Bleacher Report reported that Marcus Smart will miss Game 4. So that's a big loss for the Celtics. Haha,
Wow.
Brandon.
Is he really missing Game 4?
Yeah, Bleacher Report 18 minutes ago.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
They need Pritchard. Is it Pritchard?
Yeah, I guess Pritchard will have to come in for
Payne Pritchard.
Yeah, they need him to score 40 tonight.
with Hero with his groin injury. I mean, he didn't really shoot that great last game, and he didn't make a couple turnovers. So I guess that he would benefit from him being out. Hopefully he gets healthy. But Butler's minutes are going to be reduced. But I hope Spoelstra manages his minutes well, so that when Jimmy does play in the game, he can use his offense and defense wisely. I think the Bam is gonna have another big game against, even though Robert Williams is coming back in. But I think Duncan Robinson will have to make a significant difference this game for Hero coming out. He's gonna have to shoot well. He's been shooting pretty bad. Let's be honest here. Duncan Robinson has been shooting well. I think if he takes Heroes' place and has a miraculous comeback, I think that he can pull off a surprise win.
Well, Janka, not to interrupt you, but as a Heat fan, I don't think with Hero being out, I don't think, yes, he needs to play better, but I don't think he'll be the factor. I think there's people above him first that need to be the factor for the Heat. I think of Victor Oladipo, who, mind you, was not. Well, mind you, Oladipo wasn't such a big of an offensive threat, but he was a defensive threat.
Yeah.
I mean, how many strips did Oladipo have in that fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think he had 4.
Yeah, that kept Miami alive from offensive possessions from Boston. So I think an Oladipo or Bam's gonna have to step it up before John can continue. Bam's gonna have to step it up because we know Jimmy Butler's gonna have numbers reduced. He needs to step it up again because I think the bench in general last game had 26 points while Jimmy only had 3. So that shows you right there that they were stepping it up. And it's going to have to be that way again tonight if Jimmy's going to have minutes reduced.
Like the first half of last game, the Heat shot the ball well. But you saw the second half, we kind of got cold.
Yeah.
Which is like we can't let that happen today, because I'm expecting Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Pritchard, everybody to come out hot and aggressive, just like Isaac said. So I'm hoping, just like I said, Duncan Robinson coming off the bench and hitting a couple threes, which he hasn't been doing the last couple games, and giving a little bit extra effort on defense. Maybe give a little bit extra, a couple extra switches with Oladipo on Tatum, because Duncan Robinson is a little bit taller. Maybe a couple extra, maybe extra steals or something. I don't know, something that can help us get the extra edge on the Celtics.
Now, before Brandon goes, I will say, and I have to mention this because I might watch the game on mute tonight.
I said it. You already got me on that one.
ESPN commentary, and this is why I prefer, as a basketball fan, I prefer TNT because Chuck, Kenny, Shaq, Ernie, they tell it how it is. ESPN has had the biggest bias against Miami since the first round, and this Eastern Conference Finals is even worse. It's abysmal. I think the halftime show where the Celtics were down 15, they were talking about going right into break. The Celtics right back in it. And then at the end of that third quarter, the Heat were still up 15, which they did a good job of holding. But the commentary has been awful. It's been awful. And there needs to be, the FCC needs to run an investigation into how bad this is. How can they allow this on television? And this is coming from a commentator himself. How bad the bias has been. And the second thing, and Brandon I know is going to oppose this because he will. The officials have been horrible. The officials in the last game were absolutely
Horrible.
dreadful.
God awful. Throughout the entire postseason.
Brandon, I was about to call you, and I was ready to put a rope around my neck. That's how bad it was. I was ready to pick the tree outside because that's how bad it was. I think there was a stat percentage where it was like 48-5 at the free throw line, and that's how short of the Heat. Every call, every possession, whistle. Celtics, it's a foul on the Heat. Celtics to the free throw line, and I could not believe it. Jaylen Brown getting away with 4 steps. And then it was abysmal. It was awful. I couldn't. And then the put it even
on bio.
Yeah, this is probably the most peaceful part of our day because I know the 4 of us will probably be extremely frustrated once 8:30 comes around because Scott Foster will be your referee tonight, and it's going to be extremely worse. Yeah, extremely worse. So I just had to get that off my chest. Brandon, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the first thing I want to say from the 2 things, because I know this has been going around NBA Twitter for the past 2 days, especially towards Celtic fans. The first thing, especially, how best said by Eric Spoelstra, no matter what happens within, 2 quarters out of a whole series, either but 1 quarter out of the whole series, it's about the final buzzer. So, I mean, in reality, the only team that can stop the Celtics are the Celtics. That 3rd quarter in the first game was historical for the Miami Heat, getting 39. Boston going to buy a basket. I mean, as I said before, originally I had Celtics in 6, but after that game 1, I thought Celtics in 5 just because. I mean, it was only an 11-point deficit at the end of the day. Then we came into game 2, had a miraculous day. That one that would look like the actual Celtics because obviously Marcus Smart, Al Horford's back in there, and as one of the better 3-point shooting teams there is, according to Udoka's offense, which we had in Brooklyn as well in Philadelphia. I mean, we obviously were on, back to business, how we were looking against Milwaukee. But then game 3 comes in, and again, officiating was bad. I didn't like the entire idea of the first quarter where we're out there just being aggressive and pinpointing, like passing through a needle between 2 guys when Miami's doing a 2-2-1 defense on zone. But in reality, as I said in other panels, give credit when credit's due. Bam Adebayo, I was not expecting that game out of him. He came out right out the gates. Obviously, Robert Williams not being there to defend him. And, Daniel Tice starting, I think that's where it went south. Daniel Tice should not be starting, let alone play more than 5 minutes in this series. I can't stand Daniel Tice. I love him to death because, obviously Boston Celtics come back. But Daniel Tice, obviously, I don't expect him. I don't expect him to start anymore in this series. And if the Boston Celtics want to win, it's got to be on the hands of Robert Williams defensively. However, as I said before, the only team that can stop the Celtics are the Celtics. When I watched the replay of the game from NBA League Pass, 7 of those turnovers were turnovers based on just passing it straight to the chest of Miami Heat players.
Yeah.
And funny enough, actually, Victor Oladipo made a highlight reel literally during a series. A couple of those were exactly the type of things where the Celtics shoot themselves in their own foot. Jaylen Brown tries to go right directly between 2 guys. Another pass from Tatum from the right ring goes right into the hands of Victor Oladipo. And the Heat have a historical 19 steals in this game. And as I said before, shooting himself in the own foot. Tatum, probably 22% from the field overall, was 1 and 7 from 3. I mean, Jaylen Brown scored 40. Tatum had only 10 in that game. So in reality, exactly how we were looking at, we're talking about first quarter, 26 leading. Celtics cut it down to 15. And then it's down to 1. But as I said before, shoot yourself in your own foot. Turnover, big 3 by Strus. Turnover, big shot by Bam. Turnover, and the lead's now back to 9 points for the Miami Heat. And it goes back and forth like that during the ending of the game. And then, I mean, just the insanity of this series, though, because obviously, as we were talking about injuries before, it's like Marcus Smart gets freaking Kyle Lowry. I don't know how much he weighs, but Kyle is thick.
2 C's.
2 C's thick. Freaking landed right there on Marcus Smart. Then Marcus comes back out sprinting. and plays through the entire time with that ankle. And apparently, from what I've seen from Shams, the swelling of the ankle has not deteriorated, and that's probably the main reason why he won't be playing in today's game. And then Jason Tatum has, of course, that bang bang play where his shoulder, I guess, was like a little bit. I mean, I'm not too exactly what happened there. I don't really think it was much at all because he is active for today's game. But you're probably going to see some fatigues, just like we saw in Luka in Game One, where he had a bang bang play that his shoulder was messed up. But in reality, as I said before, the Celtics, they're down 2-1. This is exactly where we were against the Milwaukee series. They were the 11th seed in the NBA. They made all the way somehow to the first seed in the NBA. Made it the second seed, went to Brooklyn, Milwaukee. And in reality, the reason why a lot of people talk about the Celtics, no matter how much they're down by, is just because they've done it time to time again throughout this entire postseason and regular season that they always come back. And so that's the only thing I think about the Miami Heat in their sense, because Bam played phenomenal. Victor, obviously, on a defensive tear. Kyle Lowry comes to this game not doing much at all, of course, because, Kyle Lowry probably the weakest player besides Duncan Robinson for the Miami Heat throughout this entire postseason, at least. But the only thing I'm really curious about the Miami Heat right now is just that, I mean, can they hold a close game? That's what I'm really curious about. Because throughout this entire postseason, at least in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, we've all been seeing blowout, blowout, blowout. In Game 3, as crazy as it sounds, the Heat leading by 26 at one point in the game. The game ended as the closest game in the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals, besides, of course, the recent Game 3 that we saw yesterday. So that's the only issue I see with the Heat right now. Obviously, they have the chance to possibly win this one out. I feel like it still could be Heat or 6 and 7 or Celtics 6 or 7 because home court advantage does not matter in this series.
Yeah.
And at some point, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about can the Celtics stop shooting themselves in the foot and can the Heat hold on to the lead?
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I see in this series right now, where it's interesting, but at the same time, I mean, it's got everyone jumping out of their chair. It's a fun series, man. It's a fun series.
Isaac, you want to hop in and say something?
I just wanted to say I actually agree with Brandon because this last game, like how Danny had also mentioned, like the refs were not on the Miami Heat side. So when you look at the free throws, Miami shot 12 of 14, which is great for 85%. But with 16 extra free throws, Boston only shot 76% from the free throw line. So it's like if you're not getting those free points at the charity stripe and you're losing the ball on the offensive end, I mean, where's your offense? It's non-existent. So even if you're getting 40, 45 from Jaylen Brown. So let's go Heat. This game is going to be awesome.
Go Celtics. Bleed green. You know how to take out the lucky shirt. The lucky
white hot.
Man.
Here's the party.
I got this is
school. Old school, nice.
Okay.
Even Patrick is excited.
Yeah.
Patrick, the lucky Patrick.
But yeah, this is gonna be a good game. I already know that my stress levels are gonna be high because of boxer, not because of the game. Me and Brandon have been going at it after every game, which is great because this is just what passionate sports fans do. But yeah, it's actually one last thing. Brandon, what do you think about? I think Coach Spoelstra was talking about it. He was not happy with Peyton Pritchard's grabbing of Jimmy Butler's leg.
Yeah. I saw that video on Twitter because I'm all over NBA Twitter. But I mean, I'm not too positive it was intentional or not. Obviously Payton's on the floor. Jimmy's trying to take advantage and go forward with it on the play. So I don't know if it was just Payton just trying to get back up and then Jimmy's taking advantage of Payton on the floor, trying to run through him to get the easy foul. I mean, obviously, I don't really expect anybody would have in the right mind to deliberately hurt someone's knee. I mean, the same thing with John Morant and that whole Warriors thing that was going on. I still don't believe that the Warriors were trying to get somebody like John Morant injured on purpose. So, obviously, you hate to see it, especially with these conversations. But, I mean, if Jimmy Butler didn't, just go right through the guy on the floor, you know what I mean?
I don't know, Brandon. You might have to rephrase that. If there's one guy out there that's gonna do it, it's Zaza Pachulia.
Oh my gosh. No,
You
Zaza
remember-
literally showed up for 2 years and where he's at now. No one knows.
If you remember him stepping in, I believe it was Kawhi Leonard, stepping into Kawhi
Yep.
Leonard's shot and him getting injured. If there's someone that's gonna do it and injure someone on purpose, it's that guy.
It really is. I mean, let me tell you though, the fact that you made it a rule in the NBA for the whole don't jump right there in the shooter's spot just because of Zaza. He wasn't in the game or whatever at the time, guarding Kawhi. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Man shows up for I don't know how many years in the NBA, but apparently he did enough to make a rule. So, shoot.
Well, guys, we are now 30 minutes, just about under 30 minutes of tip off. This has been a great show, fantastic episode. Appreciate you guys again, episode 50. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone enjoys the game tonight. Let's go Heat. Have a great rest of your week.
Let's go Celtics.
I'll give you your moment. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody.
You too.